And then just first and foremost, this is like an open mindsets thing only, right? Like this is an incredibly stressful time in my life. I know that this is an incredibly stressful time for a lot of people right now. And it's really easy to feel like everything we do is not good enough. I want everybody to know that that's normal. We should absolutely be expecting that. Nobody knows what they're doing right now. And kind of the purpose of this meetup in groups like this, and what I want to do is to forge through that, not to dwell in that. So if you're here to get some complaints out about what you don't like about what we're doing right now, this is not the time and space and place for that. We share failure here as a means to grow and get better. So just keep that in mind. And then finally, I already mentioned this, we are recording. So if you don't want your video or picture on the interwebs, I'm going to share this on Facebook potentially. I'm going to share it on YouTube. I'm going to share it all over the place. So please, 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 be okay with that, or just go ahead and turn your video off. So let's get started. Our agenda today is going to be, I'm going to try and spend 15 minutes talking about Mr. Murphy's classroom. Really quick on his daily agenda, just kind of show you some of the things that he presents to his students. He'll go in depth in that in the Q&A portion if you'd like. He's got tons of resources to share with all of us. But we're also going to talk to him about what's working, what sucks, and kind of where he's going to go next. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce, I guess you can call him an expert. I don't know. He's been teaching almost as long as I have, all in Denver public schools. One of my very good buddies. He's teaching 3rd grade this year. He's did a long stint in 4th and 5th grade. He's been at a few different schools in the district. Always been working at struggling schools, red schools, orange schools, very similar to the demographics that probably you or I are working with if you're at a school like mine. And really is a kindred spirit. So incredibly focused on student engagement and incredibly focused on that relationship piece. And that's really why I wanted to bring him in today, because I feel like that's what we're missing more than anything in the classroom right now. We're all in our houses and our kids are all in their houses. And so how the heck are we supposed to leverage our expertise on relationships and keeping these kids engaged with, code switching between how they act at home versus how they act at school when we don't have a school building anymore. And so, I don't want to give him too many compliments, but just a really great teacher, really good guy, really focused on classroom culture. So Andrew, thanks for joining us today. You can go ahead and unmute yourself. You're not still muted, are you?
No, I'm not muted anymore. Good afternoon. How's everyone doing? I just want to preface this with a couple things. Thank you, Mike, for the nice introduction. I do share my class with 2 other people. We're a group of senior team leads in one classroom. So I just want to let everyone know that none of this that we have done has been, one single person. This has all been done in collaboration with administration, my teammates within my class, but really the larger school community in general. And going with the objective of today, I think as a senior, as the ILT, we decided pretty quickly that, the social emotional learning was going to be incredibly important to us. We're a trauma-informed school. We deal with a lot of students that come in with trauma, and we know how difficult this is at home. So the approach that we created is not in any way perfect, but that was our first goal, was to make sure that we were supporting at that level. And then academics was something that kind of came later, and we're still developing as we go through it.
Yeah, and I can confirm nothing Andrew does is in any way perfect. And again, that's kind of why we're here today, because we're going to share some of the things going well, but we're also going to talk about some of the things that people are struggling with. So without further ado, let's jump right in. I'm going to try and keep this to that 30-minute timeline. So if I'm firing through and you guys have questions, just hang on afterwards, and we'll be more than happy to answer them. So first things first, class agenda. I want to take a look at this. A lot of this is kind of being standardized in similar ways in different buildings. When I was talking to Andrew this weekend, his daily schedule was different than a lot of the teachers that I have, but the content a lot is the same. They do one literacy lesson a day. They're doing one math lesson a day. They have the specials team that's posting different activities on various days. They do one science assignment per week. Which I think is interesting, and then they have different teachers that are cycling through their read alouds. Again, we got lots of resources for that we'll share later. But what I want to draw attention to in this agenda, if you can all take a look, is this morning meeting piece, this lunch bunch piece, and these celebration pieces. Those are hosted on Google Meets, where they have kids from a whole grade level log in and meet with the teacher at those times. Will you just tell me just kind of a little bit as far as your rationale behind that, Andrew, as far as like why you guys decided to have these in-person face-to-face meetings on a daily basis with the kids?
Yeah, I mean, again, I think it goes back to what our original goal was about supporting on a social emotional level. Um, you know, giving the opportunities, these are giving the opportunities to students to not only be able to see our faces and their classmates, but also it's really served as a place to celebrate successes each and every day. And it also has been really, really helpful in terms of troubleshooting our daily assignments, um, introducing them to different things that are coming up. Like we're going to do a virtual spirit week next week at Cole. And so we've been talking about that each and every day.
Ooh.
I'm kind of excited about it. So it's just an opportunity for us to really get together and be a community. And at first we were a little nervous about how many students we would have participating. My class is about 25 students, and on average for each meeting every day, we're getting between 15 and 20 kids showing up, which for right now is a big success. And then we're reaching out to those other students that haven't gotten connected or are having Wi-Fi issues as of right now.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, what I'm hearing from you there is that relationship piece, right? Like trying to forge as much of that as you can, which I know you're great at in the classroom, trying to find a space and a time for that on a daily basis, even though we're doing remote learning now. 3 meetings a day. We're going to talk a little bit more about that later, but you jumped right into not just 1 meeting a day, but 3 meetings a day. You got any nuggets as far as reasoning behind that?
That came mostly from our ILT and Kia, who our principal is, and our deans of instruction, Ms. Shake and Ms. Harper, and our ILT team. And again, I think the goal was to connect with them as often as possible, and
Sure.
then to also give families multiple opportunities to see us.
Okay.
So depending on the family dynamic or what's going on at home, if we do 1 meeting a day, there's a chance that time that we're doing it just is too difficult for them.
Yep.
And this then allows them multiple times throughout the day to see us. We also, we got our great staff, and we've had pretty much every meeting we have someone from our essentials, which is our specials team, show up, or the mild moderate sped, or our GT teachers. So it gives them multiple opportunities to jump into different meetings too. So we have not only the homeroom present, but there's different members of our community that they get to see.
Awesome. Yeah, I would caution anybody. I mean, if you're just starting out with this, or if this is something where you're like, have never curated a class meeting, 3 a day is a lot. And so, if you wanted to jump into the shallow end of the pool, I think you could probably incorporate some of the things we're going to talk about here in like a once a day or twice a day if you're looking to start. So let's go ahead and dive right in. I want to talk about morning meeting. So there's some major components to what you do in the morning with the kids. You set goals for the day. You have assignments that you introduce, face-to-face interaction, which I think we talked about as far as the relationship building and stuff goes, and then remediation opportunities. I want you to talk a little bit about kind of how you circle back into that goal setting piece. And then what is this remediation opportunity? You've explained it to me, but let's explain it to everybody.
Yeah, I mean, just to give you an idea first, for the first couple of days, it was literally like we were just getting on the computer together.
Yeah.
And it was actually one of my co-teachers, Miss Wilmer, who, was like, we should really get an agenda going. So we have each meeting serves more of a purpose. And then that ballooned out to our whole school. So in the morning, it's really like the most important thing for us is to go over the assignments with the students, to let them know exactly what they're going to be doing for the day. And obviously there's a face-to-face interaction. So we usually start with some type of open-ended question. How's everyone feeling today? What zone are you currently in? Something along those lines.
I envision like with little kids, maybe talking about moods, having mood pictures that kids pick and talk about and things like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
My son does one. He's an ECE and he does a 3-a-day meeting too. And the morning one, she has a kind of a question of the day to start with.
Your ECE teacher does 3 meetings a day with the kids?
Yeah, and he usually ends up going about 2 of them. But
okay.
Like today was like, what was your favorite shape? And yesterday was, what was your favorite animal? And each kid share.
Talk for a second about this remediation opportunity.
Yeah, so the nice thing that it was very organic, but what quickly happened is we started to have a certain amount of students each time that were having difficulty with whatever assignment or something previous, or just having trouble either understanding or how to access whatever the assignment was.
Yeah.
So having them on the face-to-face, it's really easy to go, hey, Mike and Joe, can you guys stick around till after the meeting? And then I can talk to those 2 students one-on-one. I can share my screen with them. I've actually had a number of times with computer issues, I'm having the kids actually share their screen, and I'm like pointing out what to do.
Cool.
In terms of academic differentiation, we still haven't wrapped our head around entirely what that looks like, but I think what my teammates and I decided is after our morning meeting will be literacy remediation, and after our lunch meeting will be math remediation. And I will let students know, hey, I would like you to stay on after, and then I will really delve into content.
That sounds like a step 2 if you're trying to implement something like this. Yeah. Okay.
We're not there yet.
All right, cool. We'll talk about next steps later too. I want to keep it moving. So lunch bunch. Tell me about lunch bunch, right? What do you guys do during lunch bunch?
Yeah, lunch bunch, it's a quick check-in. Usually we shout out kids quickly that have been already crushing assignments. We then do some sort of socialization. The last 2 days we've been doing Go Noodle. All the kids like it. They get up. I'm doing it just like when I was in the classroom. I'm choosing a kid who was successful that morning to pick from my Go Noodle. I share my class or my screen and we go through it. We use it for different open-ended questioning too. And oftentimes this is one where we get an essentials teacher on especially. So we might kick it to them. Next week, we're going to start having some of them lead meetings. So our PE teacher wants to lead, some activities or some yoga during the day. And we're like, great. Our art teacher was thinking about leading like a quick drawing demonstration during one of the lunch meetings. Sure. So we're trying to keep this one really fun. And then also too, this is the perfect time since they've worked on some work that day to sit there and go, okay, who's struggling? Yeah. If you need more help, stay on.
Right. Kind of that face-to-face piece. Do you find that you get more participation in this lunch bunch than you do at the other 2? Because it's like supposed to be fun, or is it kind of up and down?
I think it's more of a time of day thing, but yeah, it typically is our largest.
Okay. That's the one I would show up for if I were a kid. So
as I said, like right now we're pretty steady between 15 and 20. Okay. We have a small group that is not really connecting yet. And then we have a group that's coming to the meetings, but isn't really doing the assignments quite yet. And then we have about, 10 to 15 who are doing it all every day.
Cool. All right, moving on. I don't know who's writing on my screen here. That's got to be on your end or something. But anyways, so celebrations, end of the day. I know what celebrations are. I know what shout outs are. Really quick, give me like a 60-second to 2 minutes as far as what you guys do during this portion of the day.
Yep. The beginning of the day, we set the goal for, right now we're not doing individual goals. It's work completion. Yeah. So we shout out the people, we track it through the day. We shout out the people that worked or that completed their assignments. We open it up for 3 students to give other students shout outs. Usually it's been like, hey, nice job connecting. I'm glad we saw you today. we give some words of encouragement to keep up the hard work. We try to keep this one really, really positive, and then we usually share some quick announcements of things to pay attention to coming up. Remember, all these meetings are 10 to 15 minutes. They're really quick snapshots. They're not anything that you're going to dwell in forever.
Okay. So you're spending on average between 30 and 45 minutes a day, spread out across these 3 meetings.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes the remediation piece afterwards, where you end up going one-on-one with students, can be a little bit timely depending on who the student is, whether they
Yeah.
have parental help next to them, and so forth. Um, but the actual meetings, we've gotten pretty good at, where we're right around 10 minutes, and we're saving those last 5 minutes for kids that need additional help. We say, okay, go get to work. If you need extra help, stay on. Or we might say specific students, I haven't seen work from these 3 kids, so I want them to stay on to see what's going on, whether they're just not getting to it, or they are having trouble accessing whatever I'm asking them to do.
Yeah, I'll tell you what I love that I'm hearing. You spread it out along the day. I know that that's going to create some challenges, and we'll talk about that in just a second. But I love that if you're able to spread that out across the day, you kind of you have a better chance of getting kids engaged for longer periods of time. At least that's how I feel. So, but I want to hear from you really quick. Give me like 1, 2, maybe 3 things that you feel like are going really well with how you're managing this right now.
I think the productivity of the class, I think this is really helping in terms of students being able to engage and access the daily activities.
Okay.
That's been huge. Um,
What
I think that,
specifically? So, like, what do you think is driving that? Because there's a lot of different components that go into these 3. Like, if teachers weren't going to do all 3 of these meetings, they were just going to do 1 a day, let's say. What are some of the components that you are going, man, like that is definitely getting
I
kids?
mean, I think going over the assignments in detail where I'm showing the screens in the morning is
Yeah.
huge.
Okay.
The shout outs have been great. I've actually been really, really happy with the shout outs that I'm hearing from my students.
Okay.
They're engaged in these meetings, and they're going, oh, wow, this student, I remember when we were in school, was having trouble, finishing assignments. They pick up on those things,
Yep.
and they're shouting out those pieces. And honestly, I think it's just our faces in front of them, giving them an outlet, you know, other than their home life, whatever's happening at home, just giving them a chance to interact. That's huge.
Well, I think the similarities about the demographics at your school and our school is that home life and school life tend to be very different. And kids get good with code switching, when they have a school building to go to for 6 or 7 hours a day, right? Like where they, behave differently at home a lot of times than they do at school. And so I think one of the challenges that schools like yours and schools like mine have to overcome are creating that space within their own house where they can code switch, where they can go, okay, now is time to actually accomplish something academic here. And that's hard to establish remotely. And I think you really strike on that heavily when you engage them with that relationship piece, that face-to-face piece, right, where they have somebody that they wouldn't normally be interacting with at home, that they can create a little space for school at home. It's not going to be perfect to start, obviously, but we're trying to improve and get it better. And I think that's the most important piece. So what sucks? Tell me something that's sucked and you got rid of it after you tried it, or something that's currently sucking that you're contemplating getting rid of in the near future.
I mean, I think you just kind of hit on it a little bit in terms of the home life.
Yeah.
I mean, me too. I have 2 little kids who are
Yeah.
constantly interrupting my meetings with kids.
I have no idea what that's like.
And so I think, one of the big things was teaching kids how to interact on it,
Yeah.
making sure, just getting that point to where they're set up. Now they know when they come on, they mute their computer, they're raising their hand, they're unmuting to share. Dealing with some of those just computer dynamics was kind of tricky in the beginning. And I think right now our big thing is how do we like, if you have a tech issue, I can help you through that pretty easily.
Yeah.
If you're having an academic issue with the content, that's our current going, oh man, how do we really do that? Like, how do we provide remediation, or how do I help them access it? And we're trying to use tech as much as possible. We're using, like, I introduced all the kids to read and write for Google that reads everything for them, or different components, but it's just tricky navigating that aspect. And then some of our kids are, they're also watching some of their younger siblings at home. They have noise all around, things aren't easy for them. So just having some grace and some understanding of, we're all just trying to do our best right now.
Yeah, I think, relationship building is more than just the words you say, right? It's how you say them, and, your body language. And that's something that I don't have a lot of experience doing online. I know, but I have more than most, and I know you do too. And so, to hear that you're struggling with that in the same way that lots of other teachers are struggling with it, I think is important. Like, how the heck do we get these kids to care about us, or to understand that we care about them when we're just a face on a screen,
And I think that's the point, like, for the multiple times a day, or, this has been the most successful thing that we've done at Cole with this virtual learning. And I don't think any of the other pieces would have happened or would be happening to the extent if we didn't have these face-to-face meetings.
Real quick, where are you going to next? What are you gonna try something next week? You guys rolling out something in the next couple of days? What are you gonna do?
I mean, well, the differentiation piece is the next piece to think about. Not in terms of assignments, because I found some adaptive pieces and some different pieces that I'm differentiating some pieces, but just remediation is going to be huge. And then the next step is the students that have not, even though we're kind of reaching out to them, but really, how do we figure out those kids that they're showing up for some meetings, they're not showing up for some, they're here one day, they're not here the next? How do we get them to be as present as possible? And to be honest, if anyone has good ideas on that, I would love to hear it. We're trying to problem solve it and see what we can do.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys all saw that notification that popped up. I do not have the professional Zoom app, so I want to make sure everybody does get a chance to share and ask questions. We got about 9 minutes left to go here. Andrew, if you're okay with it, I'm going to jump straight to an opportunity for people to ask questions. Really quickly before we do that, I'm going to do this again next week, and we're going to I'm going to try and do this on a weekly basis where we can talk about some different things that people may be struggling with. Next week, we're going to do incentives. A lot of teachers at my school reached out to me this week and said, how are we going to incentivize these kids? What are some things that we can do? That engagement piece that I think you're touching on is a great next step for a lot of people, and a question that lots of teachers have. I have a guest speaker, Noah Geisel, who's Senior G on Twitter, who's a pro at badging, digital badging. He's going to come and talk to us next week. And I'm going to be brainstorming and ideating over the weekend about that too. So please join us next week. All right, now quickly, Q&A. We're down to about 7 or 8 minutes. So I want to give people a chance. I'm going to quit sharing my screen. If you got a question, will you raise your hand, and then I'm going to call on people and we can unmute you. Before we start, I want to talk to Laura Sandoval. Sandoval, you in here? Unmute yourself, please. So I've been in your classroom. I was in there this morning checking it out. Tell me some of the things that you heard and saw here today that are similar to some of the things that you're doing in your class, because I know there's some similarities.
I'll start with the positive. I feel like I can speak to the shout outs being something that I think kids look forward to, just because I do post shout outs, although I haven't done it in a meeting structure the way that you're talking about. But those kids who are consistently coming back every single day are the kids that I'm shouting out, and they're consistently coming back every single day.
Awesome.
So that's one thing. And then that constant line of like pretty prompt feedback to their assignments, I think also keeps them coming back. So kids that are already coming, getting them to come back, it's, I think, in the constant feedback and then shouting out what they're doing, just to make sure that they know it's going really well.
How often, now you're doing meetings with the kids, how often are you meeting with them?
So I'm just starting doing weekly individual conferencing like we would have done if we were in school, where I can talk to them about personal goals, but only really touching base with those like 8 kids that are consistently coming back. I'm still trying to get like 10 kids to actually come to the first meeting.
The struggle is real, I can promise you, right? Getting kids to engage with something like this. You did, really quick before I move on to actual questions. You did parent meetings today on Zoom or on Google Meets, and I was in there for a second, and I saw parents showing up. Give me like 30, 45 seconds on if something went well, and if it didn't, like explain your disaster so that we can all feel better about ourselves today.
That pretty much sucked. And
Yes.
the reason it sucked is because it's like you say 9 o'clock. Well, one parent shows up at 9:15, another one shows up at 9:30. I'm learning how to use this technology. So I don't realize until I get out of the meeting that I should have been like, just everybody, I automatically mute them and I'm speaking. And then I can say, ask your questions now. You missed the first part of the meeting. I recorded it. Go watch it yourself, you know? But
I mean, but I would assume that's something that parents will get used to if you do that with consistency too, right?
right.
Okay. Good.
And I offered 2 sessions, so we'll see how the second one goes. If
All
I
right.
make a few adjustments.
Keep us posted. Hopefully it's not as big of a disaster as you're letting on. Does anyone else have questions really quick? Barb, go ahead and unmute yourself.
What time are your meetings in the morning? What time do you start, and the lunch bunch and the celebration?
Yeah, our admin kind of left that up to us what times we wanted to do. So
Your voice is too loud.
my son is telling me I'm messing with his learning. Actually, one of my other teammates is on here too, Megan Tate. She's part of this too. So we decided to do 9:15 to 9:30. We do like 11 to 11:15 and 3 to 3:15. But everyone does it a little differently.
And is it usually the same kids pretty much all the time?
As I said, right now we're getting pretty much the same kids. This week there were a couple kids that had Wi-Fi issues last week or tech issues. So we had a new student that got on today for the first time. We had a new student come on yesterday for the first time. And I think as some of those issues get figured out, we might have a little bit uptick.
Okay, thank you.
Andrew, you had mentioned that some kids only show up to these meetings, but then don't do any schoolwork.
Yeah, we have a couple of them. Megan, you want to talk about that?
I mean, I can if you want. Yeah, we've kind of learned that our kids just want to see each other and want to feel like they're involved in something, and they really do look forward to these, 3 times a day meetings. And then every meeting we're like, so and so, you haven't done any work yet, or we see you commenting on the charts, we're muting you. But I feel like most kids are doing it. They're doing the math. The literacy is always a challenge, and so that's kind of what we're working on. And Andrew's done a really good job making it engaging for them. And I think once they see that it's actually fun to do literacy, they're going to start doing more. But right now they just want to see each other.
Yeah, we have our group this year came in extremely behind in terms of reading levels. So literacy has always been, it's like a trigger for a lot of them actually. But at least they've been able to be successful in math every day, which is great, right? It's a place.
We probably got time for 1 or 2 more questions before they kick me off from my amateur version of Zoom. So anybody else got anything? Great. So first of all, Andrew, thank you for showing up. Megan, thank you for showing up. Everybody who came to hang out, thank you so much. Got tons of resources that Andrew's school created that I'm going to create a back channel and share with anyone and everyone that's interested. Our emails you can easily access. We're all DPS teachers that I know of in here, so you can email me or Andrew anytime with any questions. Any parting words of wisdom? Andrew, I know you're not really that wise, but you got anything for everyone before we go?
No, as I said, the reason this all worked out is because we did it collaboratively, honestly.
Who paid you to say that? Did your principal pay you to say that?
No, it's just the truth of it.
Melendez, I see you laughing. Did you load him up with that? No? All right. Anyways, appreciate everyone for coming. Andrew, thank you so much. We're going to do another one about incentives next week. I just want to plug it, invite teacher friends, trying to keep this to 30 minutes so it's nice and quick. 12:30 every Wednesday. Thanks for coming, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.